Hey everybody, welcome back. I've got a interesting lesson for you today. This could be one of the most important days of your guitar life because if you haven't heard of Steely Dan or tried to figure out any of their music, you're really missing out, okay? I've been a Steely Dan fan since the early 70s when they came out, and I'm still a huge fan. What I want you to try and do is get a hold of this music book. It's called Steely Dan Guitar Anthology Series. And it seems like it's from a company called Universal Music Publishing Group. This book has some of the most iconic and well-known songs that Steely Dan has put out. But the reason that I'm mentioning it to you is there's no band out there that's ever duplicated what Steely Dan put together. And if you're an advancing guitarist and you're intermediate or you are advanced or more and you haven't got into Steely Dan yet, you really are missing out, okay? I've been working on the song Peg. I'm just going to show you. I counted the amount of chords that are in Peg, and there's 28 of them. They're all at the beginning of every song because they utilize so many different jazz chords. They utilize so many different options for these chords all over the neck that you're not going to know half of them. And it's going to expand your chordal knowledge like unbelievably. So don't be afraid of Steely Dan because, if you want to advance, that's the direction you should go into, okay? They have some songs that are, not so many jazz chords in it, like Do It Again or one of their hits, Ricky Don't Lose That Number. But most of them have a significant amount of jazz flavoring, and that's why they had such a unique sound and were totally different than most other rock, blues, heavy metal, whatever genre, you've been listening to. The guitar players that were utilized on Steely Dan are some of the most professional and well-known session musicians that have ever played on albums over the past 50 years, okay? One thing that I'm doing is I'm learning their solos from these guitarists. In the early years, the first three albums, they relied on Skunk Baxter and Denny Diaz, not sure how to say it. On most of the tunes, there is Elliot Randall was on Reeling in the Years, and there's probably a few other session guys that were utilized, those first three albums. But after that, the band stopped touring, and they would use Larry Carlton. They would use Jay Graydon. They would use Dean Parks. And of course, Walter Becker was one of the teams with Donald Fagen writing the songs and playing on them. I've been working on the solo to Peg because that's one that I hadn't learned yet. I've already worked on and learned Kid Charlemagne solo, Don't Take Me Alive, Pretzel Logic, My Old School, Bodhisattva, Bad Sneakers. And, once you get a hold of these, the techniques that some of these guitarists use all over the neck, their unique style and their phrasing and their tone, you're not going to learn from anyone better than the guitarists that play on Steely Dan records, okay? This book will get you, this is a song called Gaucho, okay? That was one of the last album when they were in their early years. This might have 30 to 40 chords in it. So, complicated, yes. Impossible, no, okay? It's just another learning tool for you. And again, if you're a beginner, and you're just starting to learn chords, or you're in the first couple years, most of this will be above your ability. But for the people that are just in a rut and just feel like they can't figure out how to play solos other than pentatonic or blues, this will like open up your eyes, okay? I can read music, so some of this does help, but I still will go on YouTube and put in Kid Charlemagne guitar solo and easily learn the solo from listening to somebody that's already figured out. I could figure it out, but it's very time consuming. I'm a little lazy and really don't want to spend all that time. When somebody's already figured it out, it just cuts down your time tremendously. So I'm more talking about chords now and your chordal vocabulary, but if you want a little bit of both, listen to Steely Dan, any of the albums. Look who the guitarists are on there, and even follow some of those guitarists in other genres that they've done. You know, Jay Graydon, Elliot Randall, Larry Carlton have been on hundreds of other musicians' albums, and they're just at the top of guitar playing, you know, with tone, technique, and their ability to be creative and on any song. And these guys in Steely Dan, you had to be seriously creative. They could go through 10 guitarists before they found a solo that they liked. So, Steely Dan, Guitar Anthology Series. Get this book and it will just ramp up your knowledge. And I will help you through it if you have any questions. See you next time.